Heading south, the landscape becomes more hilly. In the spring, the rivers are swollen with the melting snow. The first foothills of the Carpathian mountains rise in the distance. The Carpathians are the only alpine-type mountains in Central Europe. They resemble the Alps in climate, vegetation, altitude, and their sharp peaks. They're divided into smaller ranges, such as the Tatras, where the town of Zakopane is nestled near the Slovakian border. Its rustic charm has made it a favorite place for Polish intellectuals, writers, and musicians. They come for the climate and for the comfort of the wooden houses so typical of the region. Jan Karpiel is an architect.
Dom był budowany całkowicie z drewna. Kiedyś nawet nie posiadał.
This type of house is all made from wood.
Stał na dosłownie 4 kamieniach.
Before, they didn't even have cellars.
Czasami, jeżeli był to jakiś spadek terenu, to
The
murowano
house was simply laid on 4 stones.
mury na glinie, a potem jest to dom zrobiony jak
It's a house that's constructed like a piece of furniture.
skrzynia. To, co widzicie,
What you see here behind me is a construction made out of tree trunks, assembled so that they notch together at the corners.
na narożnikach, żeby tam zimne powietrze nie przechodziło. To, co widzicie pomiędzy belkami, to jest wełna drzewna, którą
And for insulation, we fill the space between the logs with wool.
Po wybudowaniu domu utykają, izolują, tą izolację robią, uszczelniają.
The Polish architect Witkiewicz developed the distinctive Zakopane-style house, a model in wood that is still very popular. Zakopane is a thriving town thanks largely to its winter sports. The funicular is an easy way to get to the ski slopes that go up to 2,000 meters in altitude. Summer bobsledding is also good for a thrill. In the Tatras range, the pasture land up between 800 and 1,500 meters is used mainly in the summer. Władysław Butz is a shepherd, and with his 2 dogs he's going out to see his flock. The sheep go up into the mountain in May and stay until September. With the sheep milk, the shepherds make a type of cheese that dates back to the Middle Ages.
We take the ewe's milk, a bit of baking powder, and we mix them together in a vat. And then it rises and rises, something like yeast. And that's how we make the cheese called Oscypek.
As soon as they've finished milking, they start making the cheese. The milk mixture is allowed to ripen in a vat for 5 to 10 hours at room temperature. Then they do a warm ripening before adding the rennet, which curdles the milk. Then the cheese is hung so that the water and whey can drain out. Once it has rested and been hand-pressed, the cheese is molded, salted, then smoked. The traditional Oscypek made from raw sheep milk has been designated regional product by the European community, so the Oscypek is now a protected trade name. The stands in the market offer Oscypek in a variety of forms, most often cylindrical or spindle-shaped. Zakopane possesses other resources as well, leather and pelts from a variety of livestock. The furs are quite welcome here in this region, where the average annual temperature is barely 4 degrees Celsius.
I sell leather products, sheep and goat skins, cow hides. Here's a skin from our region, from Zakopane.
The climate of the Tatras is also influenced by a very strong wind, the halni. It can blow at almost 300 kilometers an hour. Luckily, it's a warm wind. In winter, the Halni is a curse for skiers. In summer, however, it's a blessing for drying hay and the washing on the line. There are also religious buildings of wood in the same style. In Debno, the little church consecrated to the Archangel St. Michael dates back to the 15th century. It was built with larch wood using dowels, not a single nail. Inside, the magnificent polychrome decoration has held up well over time. It boasts 33 different colors. Donations from parishioners have allowed the church to be kept up in impeccable condition. The church has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Here on the shores of the man-made Lake Tchortchin, two castles have been standing guard since the 14th century. They were built as border posts on the former border with the Kingdom of Hungary. Here on the shore of the Dunajec River, they rope long wooden skiffs together to form a solid but supple raft. The rafts are piloted by boatmen from the mountains, like Migdaj Stankstoff.
They've always floated timber down this river. Right up to the 60s and 70s, they were still floating timber down the river. But that's not directly connected with what we're doing here. The people that lived on the river have always had little skiffs. They used to be made from hollowed-out tree trunks. They were used to transport people and cargo. And then already at the beginning of the 19th century, they were using them for tourists.
Near the Slovakian border, the road runs through Hochowów, with its traditional wooden houses all built without a single nail. Here, woodworking is an art. Jan Zeder is a wood sculptor.
I get my inspiration from religious themes, and I specialize in nativity scenes. I just did a wood sculpture of Christ for the church in Zakopane. It was 1.8 meters tall. Here I'm doing a Last Supper inspired by Da Vinci's work, but I'm doing it in my own style, of course.
As the country is so deeply Catholic, most of Jan's commissions, like his sources of inspiration, are religious. The paths of renewal also pass through Krakow, the former capital and one of the oldest cities in Poland. The marketplace is one of Europe's largest medieval squares. In the center is the cloth hall, the old covered market. It now houses a number of shops selling the country's traditional craftwork. Here you can find the entire range of traditional products and materials: pottery, embroidery, wood carvings, metal sculptures and jewelry, and of course, amber. The fine townhouses with their different styles make for an elegant decor. The oldest part of the Church of Our Lady dates back to the 13th century. Today, they're getting ready for a ceremony in honor of the city's craftsmen. Inside the church, there's a surprising abundance of gilt, paintings and wood sculptures, some going back to the 15th century. The only thing that remains of the city's old fortifications is this imposing gate. Krakow is also home to one of Central Europe's oldest universities. The famous astronomer Nicholas Copernicus was a student here. Perched up on the Wawel Hill is the Royal Castle, the residence of Poland's monarchs for 5.5 centuries. Behind the ramparts is the Gothic Wawel Cathedral. It was here, on the banks of the Vistula, that the coronations and funerals of Poland's kings and queens took place. Krakow is very important for the Polish Catholic Church. It's the seat of an archdiocese. The Archbishop of Krakow, who may be a cardinal, has authority over a number of bishops. The future Pope John Paul II was named Archbishop of Krakow at the relatively young age of 44. 3 years later, he was made cardinal. During his papacy, he visited his homeland 8 times. Kazimierz was once an independent city. It was the Jewish district before it was absorbed by Krakow. During World War II, a German entrepreneur ran a factory producing enamel kitchenware here. His name was Oskar Schindler, and he saved over 1,000 Jews. Steven Spielberg made a film on him, which he shot here. In June, they celebrate the Wianki festival. Girls wear garlands of flowers that they cast into the Vistula to predict their future love life. The city considers itself Poland's cultural capital, and there's no problem holding a traditional festival to the beat of modern rhythms. In the Jewish district, the soup festival always draws a good crowd that comes to sample the alternative music and the Zurek, a sour soup made from rye bread, vegetables, and hard-boiled eggs. This brass band is serving up a very different type of music, but with the same enthusiasm. Poland is forging forward on its often rocky road. Today, in the light of its past experience, Poland has all the resources necessary to continue on its paths of renewal.